What is up, and welcome back to another episode of So There's That. I am your hostess doing the mostest, Kevon, and we are here with Spooktober. Guys, super excited. This month, y'all already know I love horror movies. So obviously in the month of October, we're gonna be doing scary movies. So what I'm gonna be doing is every Wednesday, I'm gonna have an old scary movie film, and by old, literally, I mean like 2005 and earlier. Now you might be like, Kevon, like 2005 isn't like that old. It's 20 years old, okay? We're going back to the crux of things, when movies were 90 minutes, when things were simple, when you knew the plot and could just simply enjoy it while eating your popcorn, your Twizzlers, you know, laughing about it now as an adult, but truly and fully remembering how scared you were as a child. And it's a way to just pay homage to all of the horror films that came before the people today, but also, you know, heal that scared little child in you. Additionally, on Saturdays, I'll be going live with different movies that you all vote on. So those won't necessarily be on here as episodes like my Wednesday ones. But if you join me every Saturday live at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So it's 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and 7 p.m. Central. So I covered all the bases. Okay, we got 4 different time zones, but that's what I'm going to be doing on Saturdays. So the movie that we're going to be covering today, I promise you I'm not going to be here long at all. It's Puppet Master. Okay, so Puppet Master came out in 1989. I was born in 1989. I don't remember when I first saw Puppet Master. I had to be between the ages of like 6 and 9. And by that time, I think all 5 Puppet Masters were out. Yes, there are 5 of them. And the 5th one came out in 1994. So by the time I was like, you know, a little Padawan and truly like memory setting in and my love of film, especially horror films, there were already 5 Puppet Masters out. But I just remember being a kid and I didn't play with dolls. Like, I didn't like dolls at all. I would get like mannequin heads to do hair because I love doing hair. But I didn't really mess with dolls like that. But then when you see Puppet Master and you're surrounded by people who collect dolls, like one of my grandmothers was a doll collector. And then all of my female cousins and like my sisters and stuff love dolls. And in the 90s, I don't know if they still do it now, but them dolls with the mechanical eyes, they opening and they shutting. I didn't have no issues with any of these until I saw Puppet Master. And for a little bit, I stopped sleeping in my grandmother's room because I was like, they're going to come to life. Like, they're going to get me. And it was completely irrational, but one of the things that I love about 90s movies, especially like killer dolls and toys and stuff like that, is that there was a very specific target to children, and that's a little sadistic, and I don't know why I'm smiling saying that, but y'all know, like the Chuckies, the Puppet Masters, Annabelle, all of those things. A doll in and of itself is not scary, right? But when you add in the occult, when you add in demons, when you add in like witchcraft, and you add in possession and things of that nature, and items and objects that are kid friendly being mediums for terror and horror, as a kid, every toy that you have becomes like a monster. I don't know if y'all remember Toy Soldiers, or was it Toy Soldiers or Small Soldiers? I think Small Soldiers. And it wasn't scary per se, but all of them army men and your favorite action figures coming to life to band and like jump you. It wasn't scary, but it was just like, you as a kid, you're watching your imagination come to life. Like, it's one thing to be playing and be like, pew, 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 no, versus like you're going pew, 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 and then your doll is like, can you not? And now you're freaked out. So that is why the movies that I'm doing for this Spooktober obviously is going to be at least 20 years old or older, because I just find that there's a beautiful fear in the simplicity of it all, in the cinematography of it all, in the animatronics, in the visual and the special effects. Like, there's something so comforting and just such a good baseline to the types of horror films and stuff that we have today. And another thing is, I just love old horror films because I just feel like horror movies today try so hard to be sophisticated and to be deep thinking and to be like intentionally psychological that I think they miss the mark sometime. And some of the best psychological thrillers that I love and psychological horror films that I love aren't movies that go out of their way to be deep. It's the ones that make you look at the everyday surroundings in your own house and be like, wow, could this kill me? Or like, wow, if I woke up in the middle of the night and saw like this shadow, how would I feel? And I find that movies today, horror movies today, they just don't do it for me. And a lot of them aren't even bad in like the haha way. They're bad in like, what the hell am I watching? Whereas 90s in particular, like especially like 80s, 90s horror films, it's like, oh, what the hell am I watching? Like, it's just a different tone. It's a different mood, because I just think they didn't take anything, like directors and creators and writers and stuff like that, they just didn't take themselves seriously. They made very ridiculous ass horror, fantasy, sci-fi movies, and out the gate it was like, hey, this is ridiculous, so watch it or don't. And you got 5 puppet masters. So before getting into the movie, and I know I'm still like at the cusp of everything, I just have a message to a lot of filmmakers and actors and stuff out there like that. Listen, this movie has puppets that come to life, psychics, witchcraft, all types of stuff. It was literally a movie where a group of writers was like, hey, let's come up with something real ridiculous and let's get some other people together, hire them, and make a movie. And there's 5 of them. So if you're ever wondering like your movie has to be a certain way, or it has to be this deep, or it has to make sense to a whole bunch of different people, find your niche, find the story that you want to tell. Don't think about the story that you think other people want to hear. Find something in you, a story that you want to tell. Find a group of people that are just as passionate as you are or want to support you in making this film, and go out there and make the most ridiculous fucking film ever. You can have a puppet master. You can have when Mars attack. You can have small soldiers. You can have Chucky. You can have Dolly Dearest. You could literally do whatever. At the end of the day, it's about your passion, it's about working with your peers, and it's about getting some work out there that you can laugh at and that you can be proud of, and also building your filmography so that you can create a name for yourself in this industry. So if you're ever feeling discouraged about your product and what the movie needs to look like and all the equipment and this and the third, please go watch horror films and sci-fi films between the 80s and 90s. And I promise you, your iPhone can do better, and you can probably produce a story just as good, if not better, while still leaning heavily into a genre that's very forgiving of plot holes and things of that nature, which is why I love horror, sci-fi, and fantasy. You could do whatever the fuck you want, and nobody can tell you anything. This isn't realistic. This isn't that. Exactly. If you want realism, please go watch a drama, okay? And hope that they have like consultants on the set. But if you want to just make a movie that you could keep going back to over and over and over and get people to talk about, horror, sci-fi, y'all. So if I didn't convince you, I hope this is convincing enough. If you were not loving this genre, I hope I sold it for you. So without further ado, what is Puppet Master really about? So the overarching like log line basically is psychics find themselves plotted against by a former colleague who committed suicide after discovering animated murderous puppets. So who do we have in here? And our characters. So our cast members are Paul Lamont as Alex Whitaker, one of the friends. William Hickey, who is Andre Toulon, and he is the original puppet master from the 1920s who was an alchemist, and he learned how to wield this power to animate inanimate objects. And because he was a puppet master and dealt in marionettes, obviously it went into animating the puppets. We have Irene Miracle, who plays Dana, another one of the friends. We have Jimmie Skaggs, who plays Neigl Gallagher, and he is the one who killed himself and betrayed everybody in the friend group. We have Robin Frates, who's Megan Gallagher. She's the wife of Neigl Gallagher of 2 years. We have Matt Rowe, who plays Frank Forrester, another one of the friends, and Kathryn O'Reilly, who plays Carissa Stamford. So out the gate, right, Neigl found the secret to Toulon's puppets who come to life, and then he killed himself. And the whole plot line is centered around all of the friends at some way, shape, or form in their own lives. A psychic signal was sent out from Neigl to go to a specific hotel, and it was I forget the name of the hotel. Like, oh my God, I just had it in my brain. Basically, it looked like Alcatraz, and it's in California, and it's surrounded by a bunch of water, so it's kind of like on its little island, and they all get this psychic call to go to him. But when they get there, they're greeted by Neil's wife, and they're like, okay, where is he at? Because he's always plotting, he always up to no good. And she was like, didn't you know? He's dead. So that's basically like the plot and everything surrounding the movie. Now, let's get into some things that I thought was really nice and really interesting in this. First and foremost, it was directed by David Schmoeller. And then the writers that are credited are Charles Band, Kenneth Hall, David Schmoeller, and that was the screenplay, so he also directed it, and J.S. Cardone, who they have as uncredited, I'm assuming, on the film, but I'm in IMDb right now, so they still have him listed. So I'm gonna say that. The composer, so let's sit with the composer, who's Richard Band. The first 12 minutes of the movie, like between the composer and the cinematographer, who is Sergio Salvati, the first 12 minutes, literally the composer and the cinematographer owned the first 12 minutes of this movie. Now, in horror films, you really gotta like find that balance of not going too fast to the point where you like destroy your plot and you get people to lose interest early on in the movie, or going too slow and you get them turning it off because they just don't want to wait long enough to even figure out the plot. So we open it up with basically music that sounds like a puppet play, like it's all strings, right? And you know, marionettes and puppets are handled by strings, so you're hearing like an onomatopoeia and you're mentally connecting it to the theme and the name of the movie all together. So in this 12 minutes, you're hearing like different strings and a lot of like soprano and second soprano and alto strings in there as well, and like a little bit of like keyboard on the bass and the tenor. But the string instruments are the crux of the opening of this film. And where the cinematographer comes in is all you see is from the ground up, and it's maybe 6 to 8 inches off the ground POV of this thing just breathing and panting and going through the different streets and crossing the roads and doing all of these different things, and you don't really know what's going on. So the movie opens up and it's just all of this, and it's like and it's almost like if they strapped a camera to a dog. How they did this shot, I need to research this, but how they did that, I thought it was very appropriate. I think they got to the point of, okay, puppets are small, with the music, and kind of let you know like, okay, you're watching a scary movie about puppets that come to life. But to open it up with stress and fear and desperation from the puppet's point of view, I thought was very smart. Hey, get off of that. So I thought that was really smart of them. And we're going and we're frantic. And this whole time I'm like, okay, so ain't nobody gonna look down. So as the puppet is running, you end up seeing these two people that look like the Blues Brothers 2000s kind of doing their little walk through the street as well. And then we cut to Toulon, and he's in the room and he's doing like some type of spell or something over another puppet that he's creating. And he's like, they're coming. So now you're like, okay, I don't know who's on the ground. These two people are coming. Maybe he's talking about them. So finally we get into this hotel and we're going, and this lady looks down and she screams. So finally, after like 10 minutes, somebody looked down and saw this puppet going, but the puppet is afraid, right? And so you're like, why is this puppet afraid? And it goes into the room, and the guy opens the door, and he was like, you know, you came, we weren't expecting them to come this soon, but everything is gonna be okay. So he takes all of his puppets and he locks them in a chest, and he puts them in like a, what do you call it, like a, what do you call those, like a trick wall in the hotel. And the guys finally get to the door, and they're knocking on the door, and they're like, you know, Mr. Toulon, you know, open up. And when they, right before they bust in, they hear a gunshot, and he shot himself in the head. Now, this was done in 1989, but the blood splatter was quite accurate. I'll give it to them. It didn't look, y'all know, like in the 80s and the 90s, it was looking real like syrup and food coloring. It actually looked really good. So shout out to the special effects person on there. So that was like in the 20s, and then we jump forward to present day, and we're meeting all of the people in the friend group, and they each have like different psychic / like witch abilities. One is like a fortune teller. One has dreams into the future and basically like a premonition. And then there's one, she does like, it's like psycho, it's like she can feel what people experienced if she touches something or sits on something that they had. So basically she can it's like an empath, but then she can like mentally relive everything and feel exactly what they felt through touch. And then one of the guys that's like she's dating or whatever, she's able to have him in that same medium, and then she could transfer everything that she's seeing and feeling onto him. So he kind of like wasn't like as psychic, it didn't seem, but he could get like the psychosemitism or something like that. I don't know the language from the movie. And he can feel it in that way. So like I already said a few minutes ago, right, Neigl got all of these people there. He sent out a signal just for them to all show up at the hotel that he bought with his wife, because it used to belong to her parents. And they find out that he's dead. So they're like, okay, well, why are we even here? Because Neigl is not this kind person that you say that he is. He's always up to no good. He literally betrayed us. So we're just here to make sure he did and to get what we owed. So boom, they see his body in a casket. They're making sure he's dead. And they just living their life and just kind of like going throughout the things. Now, something that I mentioned on Twitter when I did a thread of Dolly Dearest is movies back in the 80s and 90s, 90 minutes, shout out to y'all, like respect our time. Respect our time. But with that, they did take a lot of time to get to like the action of certain things. I will say with the Puppet Master, you got to see like, you know, 12 minutes is just running around, so you're like, what the hell is going on? Then you get somebody to shoot himself. Then you got all of these people kind of experiencing things, and then they go to this hotel and they're just kind of going about their life. You know, they're eating dinner, they're drinking wine, they're doing all these other things, they're putting fire in the fireplace. And so you're like, okay, what I love about it is the ebb and flow of keeping your interest to get you into like, okay, what are the puppets gonna do and when are they gonna pop out and things of that nature. So with that, by the time you get to the end of the movie, you really understand why there's 5 puppet masters, because much like a lot of the films back then who had part 4, part 8, part 13, they're keeping you interested enough to then answer maybe 2 questions in the last 10 minutes, but you have 50 questions the whole hour and 20 minutes. And so now we can continue to build and we can continue to make money. And the more money you get, the more you get in a budget, you could pay your actors, you could pay your crew, and your cinematography, and everything gets better as well. So it's very smart move in the 90s to continue to get that funding. And also, a lot of those movies are the movies that we go back to watch out of comfort. I have a lot of comfort horror movies, and I go back and watch them because it's like, man, times were simple, but those people like individually did these things. And while I respect CGI, I don't know, I just feel a deep connection towards the crew members specifically of films back in the day. There was so much physicality and technicality that you had to do as a filmmaker, and I use filmmaker as like an umbrella. There was so much that you had to do in order to bring a film like this to light. So much respect to them. Anyway, if you're hearing noises in the background, one of my dogs decided to drink water. The other one decided that this was the time for him to eat. And now he's rolling his face around all on the floor, sneezing and doing all these other things. Because why? I don't know. They were just silent the whole time I was watching this movie. But now, y'all know, kids. Anyway, I got homework to do, so forgive me if I'm talking fast. I have a quiz tonight, so pray for me. Yeah, so shout out to them, much respect. So with that, you're like, okay, what the hell is going on? Now, I'm not gonna say that watching these movies are not corny, because oh my God, why is one of the puppets got normal size hands with a teddy bear sized chest, and his head looked like a thumb that was covered in snot? Like, why? Why? So the puppets are absolutely ridiculous, and they're going around beating and killing grown-ass adults. Like, bro, if you don't punt this damn toy, like, oh my God. And I get understanding, like, okay, you're startled, like, oh my God, there's this toy. But you mean to tell me that this toy picked up this fire poker, hit you in the head, and you did? Didn't even have enough force, like the laws of physics. So it's just really fun to sit and watch and be like, damn, I was scared of this as a kid, but I'm looking at it and I'm just like, punch it, flick it with your middle finger. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Just pick it up and watch its little feet like squirm and do all those other things. But you know what? Like I said, make your movie, man. Make your movie. So we're going throughout. These puppets are coming to life. They killing everybody. You know what I'm saying? Honestly, it's like the birthplace of Chucky. I just love doll movies. I just love doll movies. And they're doing their thing. And also Neil's like dead body is like popping up throughout the movie as well. So it's like, what the hell is going on? Like, he's supposed to be dead. They're thinking maybe the wife has something to do with it, and she's doing all those things. Come to find out, Neigl set all of them up for one last time, because obviously he's a POS and he just had to get the gag on everybody once and again. So he found a way to get the spell from Monsieur Toulon from 20 years ago, in order to not just use the spell and the alchemy ritual to bring inanimate objects to life, but how to bring other humans back to life. So he shot himself after already performing the ritual on himself. So as you see him in his body in all these different places around the house, you find out at the end, like, no, he's really like animated. So while his blood wasn't pumping in his veins and you couldn't feel a pulse, it's magic, it's like witchcraft and stuff like that. So that's how he was able to do it. Now, like all evil geniuses, they get so full of themselves that they think that they're above like the stuff that got them there in the first place. So Neigl thought that he was smarter than Mr. Toulon, and also looked at the puppets as like beneath him. And you learn that he practice on his own wife's parents first. They didn't die of like natural causes or anything like that. He married her to get to the hotel, to get into the things, and he killed her parents so that he could practice the spell on them and perfect it so that he can do it for himself because he wanted to live forever. So you're like, hold up, this ain't just about puppets, right? Boom, mind blown. And so he started killing all of his other friends because they also possessed like just energies and the way that their spirits are tied to the occult and to the psychic world. He's like, I can bring all of them back and I can literally puppeteer them. But in his ego and in all of his like mania, he's like shitting on the puppets. He was like, I don't need these dumbass puppets, I don't need these dolls. And he goes and tosses one against the wall, and one of the funniest scenes in it, it's one of those puppets where like it's 3 pieces of the head and it spins around separately, and when it finally came back, it was like it was Skaggs, and the little witch one was like, oh my god, no. And they don't talk, so they're just making these grunt noises and like panty noises, but you know like the emotions and stuff that they're feeling. So while the wife and I think Alex, they're the last 2 alive, and they're trying to escape Neigl, and he has all the other friends like dead around the table, and he's like, boom, I'm about to bring them back to life, I'm about to control every single one of y'all, I don't even need these puppets. Mr. Toulon, you know what, he thought he was doing something with these dolls, but baby, I'm about to do something with humans, and we're about to roam the earth. Okay, zombies were created here. Neigl Gallagher, okay, you heard it right here on So There's That podcast. But anyway, so he does all that, and the puppets are gagged. They're like, oh, not my father, absolutely not. And so all of the little puppets turned on him, and they start beating his ass, y'all. They start jumping him, and then they pushed him like he fell like down an elevator shaft, and he was trying to keep himself from falling, and they have like their little doll knives, and they're like stabbing him in the hands, and this green goo is coming out of him because he's not human anymore, and they're cutting off his fingers, and so he falls back. And his wife Megan and Alex, they lock him into the little elevator shaft. It's one of those old school ones where you like pull the gate and do all this other stuff. And they lock him in there with the other puppets because they're like, you're not gonna be talking about my dad. And the puppets are like stabbing him to death. And that's the movie. I love this movie. I'm gonna watch all 5 before the month is over because I'm pretty sure I watched Puppet Master 1 and 2, because in one of them like the puppets start like taking over like the whole town. But what I really loved about part 1 is that the puppets wasn't just like these mindless things. They had some loyalty to the creator, and you go into it thinking like, oh, this is about to be about some evil puppets, but you realize that their own puppet master, while he was doing some shit he should not have been doing, he just genuinely seemed like he wanted some companions and some little friends, because he was, you know, in all of the years that he's been alive on this earth, he didn't have no friends. And then somebody went and kind of used that same ideology and that same magic and then tried to shit on the originators. So it was really cool to see the puppets weren't killing because they were killing. They literally killed to avenge their dad. And so it was a nice plot twist within a very ridiculous, very unserious movie. So there's that. Puppet Master, guys, 1989. The movie is 35 years old. Shout out to us, the last of the 80s babies. Yes. So honestly, if you enjoyed that review, please go watch it for yourself and literally just keep watching the rest of them. I promise you, it is a fun experience to just go back in time and just be like, you know, man, I can't believe like I was scared of this. But if you're a writer, it might give you some ideas on how to like revamp some things. We do love nostalgia and people love recycling storylines, but I think this is one of those things where like animated and killer dolls is never gonna go out of style. You can always find new ways. Are you serious? Demetrius, Stop it. You can always find new ways to scare the shit out of your kids. So yeah, go back and watch it. Watch all 5. Comment in the comment box below. Leave a comment on Spotify or YouTube. And as you can see, I'm wrapping this up. Go ahead and like, share, I'm about to say describe. Like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Leave a comment in the comment box below. Follow me on Spotify as well as So There's That podcast on Apple Podcasts. You can also find me on Instagram under the same name. And if you want to see all the other shenanigans that I talk about with film and television, as well as participate with me with Spooktober, find me on Twitter at Kivonchi. And that's gonna wrap up this episode. Don't forget, every Saturday this month I am going live on YouTube, 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. This Saturday, got a special request to go live and watch Jeepers Creepers, where'd you get those eyes? So this is gonna be super fun. I love laughing at that movie. So again, join me every Wednesday here talking about an old school scary movie. Join me every Saturday, 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, and I will catch y'all in the next episode. And say bye to my dogs who decided to make a cameo in here.